I'm Tom Shearer with Lutron Electronics, and I appreciate the opportunity to speak with you today. I am a commercial business development manager at Lutron. Lutron is the leader in lighting control, both commercially and residentially in the United States and globally. I am also the product manager for a Lutron ballast retrofit kit family of products to replace fluorescent dimming ballasts. So we're going to talk today about the fact that the lighting industry is undergoing an incredible technology shift. New projects, new lighting control systems, and new lighting systems have all standardized around light emitting diodes or LEDs. However, there's a large installed base of fluorescent lighting, and the light sources themselves, fluorescent lamps, are going to rapidly become less and less available in the near future. And it is the time to switch from fluorescent to LED lighting and prepare yourselves and your buildings for upgrading this lighting in order to maintain your buildings and keep your lighting operating. A quick discussion of the sources that we're talking about. Fluorescent lighting, which is the means of producing light through an ionized gas inside of a glass tube, became the standard for commercial lighting in the 1950s. And fundamental to the operation of fluorescent lighting is mercury vapor inside of the fluorescent tube. However, the mercury itself is harmful to people if it gets into the water table, and so lamps are difficult to dispose of. It was certainly an improvement over incandescent lighting, which was when current is passed through a wire in order to heat it up and then make light that way. But it does require the mercury. Also, fluorescent lighting requires a ballast, a device that goes between the power feed, the AC distributed in a building, that creates the voltage and current necessary to ionize the gas and operate the lamp. LED lighting, or light emitting diode lighting, became the standard for commercial lighting around 2010. It's considerably more efficient than fluorescent lighting. It's easier to dim in as much as there's more devices and the control technology is easier to operate. And all modern lighting control systems have much more capabilities, such as daylighting and integration with shades and wireless controls, which the modern smart buildings are using that more and more today, and codes are requiring it. So I want to use this time to quickly try and gather some information from you all, if you can help us, because we want to understand the things that are happening in the market. And so we have a quick poll, if you can help us with the information that you have. Are you still operating fluorescent lamps and fluorescent dimming ballasts in a space you're managing or are a stakeholder for? And there's going to be a number of options. The first is I have all light emitting diode lighting, LED lighting, or yes, I do have fluorescent dimming or fluorescent dimming ballasts, and they're Lutron ballasts on a Lutron system. Or yes, I do have ballasts, but I don't know if they're dimming or they're not dimming or they're not Lutron ballasts. Or I know I have fluorescent lighting, but I don't know what the situation is regarding the ballasts. And even, I don't know if I have ballasts at all, right? You can choose any one of these, and you would be surprised to know the number of folks that we encounter that are really not certain of their situation or what lighting they have. You're not alone. There's a large quantity of people that have encountered this and don't have a plan. So this is important to know and important to think about as we move forward, and I'll hopefully give you the necessary information to support, kind of coming up with a plan. So a couple of years ago, if you looked at the state of Canada and the United States, we noticed that California and Vermont had passed legislation establishing an end date after which you could not sell fluorescent lamps, and that's January of 2025. Less than a month from now, and a couple other states and Canada were also considering similar legislation. And then New York City has an energy code that establishes, essentially efficacy, the amount of watts per square foot that you can use, and can't be achieved with fluorescent lighting. Today, there are 5 states that have passed legislation establishing January 2025 as you can't sell fluorescent lamps in the state anymore, and that's California, Oregon, Colorado, Vermont, and Rhode Island. A number of other states and Canada have passed legislation that are restricting the sale of fluorescent lamps starting after 2025, so 2026 and up to 2030. And then a number of other states are still considering legislation. By the way, the companies that make fluorescent lamps have indicated that they don't intend to make fluorescent lamps forever. And this is a challenge because there are many billions of square feet of commercial space in the US and Canada that are still illuminating the space with fluorescent lighting, and those spaces are essentially at risk if there's not a light source to replace the fluorescent lamps when they wear out. So this is, we believe, the time to plan for what to do with your lighting if you have fluorescent lighting in your space, especially if it's on a control system. Many buildings currently operate fluorescent lighting. It's important to get a plan for the different lighting types that you have in your space, and an opportunity to increase your energy savings and make your space look more up to date or function better, or have the ability to adjust the lighting in the space to make people more productive and comfortable. You don't need to replace all your fixtures. If you have beautiful pendant fixtures or decorative fixtures or fixtures that are installed in wooden ceilings or difficult things to replace, you don't need to replace the fixtures. You could just do a retrofit that keeps the fixtures in place and replaces the fluorescent light source with LEDs, and we're going to go through and talk about that. Of course, you can always buy new lighting that allows for considerably more customization, performance improvements, better rebates. However, we're now talking about a capital expense, and so these things are certainly very important things to consider for the financial situation that you're in and what you're planning for. So if your fixtures are on a dimming control system versus if they're just in a switched area, you may have different options, and I think it's important to consider that in advance. If you have dimming, for example, in the conference room on the right, you have the down lights in the ceiling, the panel lights in the ceiling, and then the linear lights over the conference table, right? You may have a different retrofit option for each kind of fixture, and the performance that that the lighting has to have in order to meet the needs of the space. If you're going to make a presentation, if there's a dinner, if there's an open session for a lot of people, the lighting may need to operate in a different way. And if you're retrofitting the fluorescent lighting, you need to keep the performance the same or improve it depending on how you like the use of the space. In an open space where the lighting may be switched, it may be easier to retrofit it. However, I think it's important to consider that you may trigger a code requirement by replacing the lighting in your space, depending on your area. So for buildings or people that want to keep the fixtures installed and retrofit the fluorescent lamps with LED lamps, there are 3 major options as recognized by the Underwriters Laboratories, or UL. Right, there's a type A retrofit where you leave the ballast in place and replace the fluorescent lamps with LED lamps. This is cheap, very easy to do. However, if you have dimming in the space, the performance may not be what you expect, and the lifetime of the ballast may be impacted by including this LED lamps instead of the fluorescent lamps, because the load is considerably different for the ballast. If you cause your ballasts to fail, then you have to go back into the fixture and repair it, and then keeping the lighting maintained becomes a difficult challenge. A type B retrofit is where the ballast is bypassed and line voltages run directly to lamp holders that are put inside the fixture. This may allow for color temperature selectable retrofits, and in some cases may allow for dimming. However, if the fixture was originally part of a control system which had scheduling or occupant sensing or digital controllability, you've lost the control of that fixture, and that may not meet the needs of your system and may be a challenge. If you use a Type C retrofit, the fluorescent ballast is replaced with an LED driver, and the fluorescent lamps are replaced with LED lamps. This is the more costly option in terms of original cost. However, it provides the best performance and integration with your control system, and allows for the same or better dimming, allows for the same kind of addressability or scheduling and function of the fixture within the control system, which is usually provides people the best experience when they had a fluorescent lighting system originally installed. So I want to talk briefly about the fact that Lutron has many fluorescent dimming ballasts installed in the United States and Canada on control systems all over. And they are in universities and commercial spaces. They're virtually everywhere. We now offer a TLED retrofit kit, a way to replace the fluorescent lamp with an LED lamp and replace the ballast with an LED driver, which is a Type C retrofit, for virtually any installed Lutron fluorescent dimming ballast. There's no wiring changes outside the fixture. There's no, you reuse the same wiring inside the fixture. You use the same sockets and everything else, and it integrates with the control system just as if you were replacing a ballast with another ballast. So these have been very helpful for people as they want to keep their control systems and keep the performance, but they're required to upgrade the lighting source technology from fluorescent to LED. Now, in many cases, we encounter commercial spaces where there may be some dimming, for example, in an executive space or on a floor for that's a Type A space, and then there's a lot of open office lighting which may be switched fluorescent. As you're upgrading this lighting, especially if you're upgrading the fluorescent lighting on the lighting control system, it's important to consider what to do with the rest of the fluorescent lighting, because you may want to bring it all onto the same control system and have the opportunity to save energy, have a common look across the whole space, and improve the performance of the lighting for individuals, even in the open office, which improves comfort and productivity. This can be done with door kits that go into troffers, or new fixtures or retrofit module fixtures that include wired and or wireless control integration, right? There are many products that are offered, including by Lutron, that could achieve this to bring them onto the control system that you have. So as a brief case study, Lutron worked with Moravian University to retrofit a bunch of lighting in their stadium, in their indoor basketball stadium. You can see the pendant fixtures hanging from the ceiling. Each one has 6 54-watt T5 high output lamps running from a number of ballasts in every fixture. Of course, as you can imagine, it is difficult and expensive to maintain the fixtures, and it could be impactful to the use of the space to go through and renovate the lighting. So they chose to do a Type C retrofit. However, because of the energy, they traded off some of their energy savings to increase the light output because they wanted more lumens per, essentially foot candles on the floor of the basketball stadium. So for an improved look of the space. These kinds of options are available when you have a control system and you choose to retrofit if you want to keep the same fixtures. Of course, similar or better options are also available for new lighting, but again, it depends on your financial strategy if you want to move to a capital expense or keep it in your operating budget. I believe that you're going to be provided with a copy of this slide deck, and so the link to the case study is contained in there. So as you're considering what to do for your own lighting project, there's a bunch of things that I think it's important to consider as you move forward to make sure that at the end of the project, you have everything kind of buttoned up and you don't have any surprises, right? For every lighting type, I think it's important to consider starting with a mock-up. Put one of each kind of retrofit kit into every kind of fixture. Make sure that the time it takes to install the mock-up is something that you're prepared for. It should be the same amount of time or less as upgrading or replacing fluorescent lamps and a ballast, but it's something you should prepare for in advance, especially for high ceiling spaces or complex ceiling, right? If you have architectural spaces with wooden ceilings or specialty fixtures that require, a lot of work to get into them, or if they're in an office where you have to block off a bunch of space in order to get to the lighting. Then, as you've identified a lighting retrofit option for each kind of fixture, I think it's important to upgrade a space inside your facility and see how the project goes and make sure that there's no surprises in staging and receiving the product, installing it and integrating it into your control system to make sure that all of your risks have been properly identified and mitigated. And then proceed to upgrading the rest of the building or the rest of the floor, and making sure to consider that your control system is also part of your strategy. Typically, a lot of control systems that are operating fluorescent ballasts or fluorescent lighting are out of date. When in some cases, replacement parts and services are no longer available for these systems, and it's important to consider an upgrade as you're doing this. You don't have to do it at the same time, especially with a Lutron system, but it's important to consider what to do to bring your system up to date, just as like an IT system, right? To make sure that you're not left in a risky spot where you don't have the opportunity to replace the parts or keep the lighting maintained. So it's easy to try these retrofit kits. We now offer them in single kits or full cases. So if you want to buy one for 5 or 6 different fixtures, that is possible to get one at a time. When they come from Lutron, everything you need is in the box: the lamps, the driver, the wiring harness, the instructions, the labels for the fixture, and make sure that it meets your needs. I think I found this to be very, very useful as people get their themselves and their teams prepared for what to do for a lighting retrofit. Uh, and of course, even in the short term, if you're not sure what you're going to do, if the future of the building is in question, perhaps you're going to do a gut renovation in 5 years, and you don't want to retrofit all the lighting. That's totally fine. We encounter this sort of situation all the time. However, the image here is of essentially a shelf stock for replacement ballasts for a center that had about 30 different kinds of fixtures, which is not terribly uncommon. As those ballasts become, as the ballast stock is depleted, or as the lamps are no longer available, it is possible to, it's a perfectly acceptable idea to use a Type C retrofit to maintain the lighting until the time comes for you to do your building renovation. In many cases, these retrofit kits are the same price or less than the replacement ballast that you were purchasing before. It's important to consider rebates. We have a link here for the Desire USA organization website, where you can put in information about your territory and what kind of retrofit or renovation you're doing, and you can see what rebates are available. And this goes, frankly, far beyond lighting, but all of the lighting retrofits and and renovation rebates. So, replacing fluorescent lighting with LED lighting, whether it's new fixtures or a retrofit kit, are all listed there. And that has been very, very helpful. And in many cases, I have to say, renovating or retrofitting switched fluorescent lighting with LED lighting that includes controls has very, very substantial rebates in areas where rebates are common. It's also really important, right? Just to identify all the surprises. This is part of why it's important to renovate after you've chosen one retrofit to make sure it works. It's important to renovate a space is to identify your emergency lighting system. If you have a whole emergency generator and just the whole building switches over from the normal power source to the emergency power source, it's really less of a challenge. However, if you use battery backup ballasts or if you have an automatic load control relay, it's important to figure out what the plan is for the emergency fixtures and how they're going to function before you get down the road of retrofitting all your lighting, and then you have to figure out the plan afterwards. So I really it can't stress enough the importance of going over that. So Lutron has a number of resources to help you prepare for your lighting upgrade uh, as you're excuse me as you're preparing for a lighting upgrade, or if you want to buy ballast retrofit kits to replace your Lutron fluorescent dimming ballasts. And I think I'd seen a question here. You're going to get a PDF of this, and so all of these links, functioning links, should be available and will be provided to you. So a lot of the information that I provided to you here and considerably more in-depth information are available on these websites, right? The LED Upgrades website and then the Ballast Retrofit Kit website. And then we also have a ton of videos on our YouTube playlist, including videos showing how to retrofit a fixture, how to program your control system if you need to address new fixtures, how to use our lookup tool to replace a Lutron ballast with a retrofit kit, and a number of other helpful video resources that you can use to kind of plan out your upgrade. And of course, we encourage you to reach out to your local lighting controls expert or to Lutron so that we can assist you. So I want to thank you very much for your time. And if you have any additional questions, please email us at ledupgrades@lutron.com. Now, I'm going to quickly go through, I've seen a bunch of questions here, which is terrific. Thank you very much for your interest and for these questions. So I'm going to try and go through them. So the first question is, are there lamps with integral occupancy sensors? So my answer is, I don't know. I have looked at many, many retrofit lighting options, and I have yet to see a lamp that includes an occupant sensor. My reason to think that that would be unlikely is that the position of the lamp and where the sensor needs to go are usually not very well aligned, and you could end up with a sensor that's not terribly useful. I think one reason why it's beneficial for a Lutron lighting control system, we have wireless sensors that allow you to position the sensor wherever it needs to be. And if you're adding a new lighting, there are lots of retrofit options that allow for the position of sensors, but they're not in the lamp. They would be adjacent to the fixture itself. Where would I search to find out if my state, Arizona, but there are other states, is going to ban fluorescent bulbs and related ballasts? That is a terrific question. Again, my answer is at this, we have an organization that kind of monitors this on a regular basis, but it is not easy, right? You could work with your local state legislator, right? That should be able to tell you that that situation is part of their service to you as a constituent. However, if you, from a more economic national standpoint, I think the important thing to note is that the lamp companies themselves, right, the states that are most that have a large population, hence a large number of installed fluorescent lamps, which is where these companies that sell the lamps are getting their business. The companies themselves are hinting at a time when they're not going to make the lamps anymore. So it may be less about when your state bans the lamps as the fact that the lamps are no longer available. I hope that was helpful. I know it wasn't a direct answer. Uh, Another comment, we moved to LEDs without a control system for most of our lighting, but we still have 250 fixtures that were not changed because they have life safety backup. So, uh, so can these be retrofit? The answer is yes, anything can be retrofit, but it may require choosing the right emergency lighting retrofit option, right? So it could be a battery that goes alongside the LED driver that illuminates some LEDs that you put in the fixture. It could be an automatic load control relay that goes outside the fixture that kind of powers a secondary emergency option. So the answer is yes, they can be retrofit, but it requires a kind of an in-depth discussion. But this is, this is why it's helpful to plan those things in advance. Certainly, if you want to reach out to Lutron, we can help you figure out what to do and possibly how to bring the other fixtures onto a control system so you can realize the benefits of a lighting control system. Um, the last comment that I have so far is with more research pointing to the importance of light warmth, so this is color temperature, particularly at night, are there controls available to modulate the color temperature of fixtures? That is a spectacular question. Uh, I, uh, I, that the answer is yes, there is. So there are control systems. Lutron has a system we call Athena that allows for the wireless control of lighting, including color temperature adjustment. So, Lutron has done some large projects, and we have some case studies on our website that show how the integration of wireless lighting control to change color temperature throughout the day and integrate with automated, motorized window shade systems so that you get a perfect blend of glare-free lighting. You get a your retention of the beauty of the space outside the building and the adjustment of the color temperature inside the building. That is the, I don't want to say cutting edge, that is the current modern lighting control system and the expectation in the specification world of how a building should have its lighting, both natural and electric lighting, controlled and integrated. That's a terrific question. Um, so the one other question that we have is, I have a mix of dimmed and switched lighting, and which of the kit types is the best? Uh, my my recommendation is the Type C kit is best because you want to do that for your dimming, and then for your switched lighting, if you have troffers, I would put in a door kit that has a wireless, uh, control option, and then all of the lighting can essentially be tied together into one now larger control system with very little marginal expense that allows for the full control of the lighting in the space because it is so much easier to dim LEDs. Once you include a wireless control to get to the fixture, including dimming is really, is no additional expense. It's merely the control system telling the fixture what light level to operate at. One last question that I saw was, why would I not buy drivers and lamps separately in order to save cost? I know a guy down the street that he can sell me lamps at a deep discount and I can buy drivers from somewhere else. The challenge is UL kind of requires that these kits be listed together, and the UL standard indicates that the driver needs to be labeled by the party that makes the kit that has them listed together with the UL listing of the kit and the part number of the kit. That way, the installer knows which lamps go with which drivers and how to put them together so that it all works and looks the same. I can't tell you how many buildings I've been to where people have attempted to roll their own kits and there's a confusion as to which ballast or which driver runs two lamps and which driver runs one lamp. They all get mixed up and nothing looks the same. And frankly, it's a giant mess. And then getting out of that is expensive and really time consuming. And it tends to be it's a penny wise, penny foolish It's a low cost. It's the high cost of poor quality solution when you try to be penny wise and pound foolish. So in any case, I hope this has been useful. We really appreciate your response to the poll. And thank you very much for your time today. And if you have any additional questions, please reach out to us at ledupgrades@lutron.com or your local Lutron agent or lighting control specialist. Thank you very much.